Everyone.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. Very pleased to start this new event. So I'm Quickwit co-founder, François Massot, and the goal of this event is to share what we are currently doing at Quickwit. This is our second event. So we are just learning to make better events and better YouTube stream. So don't hesitate to send us some nice feedback so that we improve the content and the way we are doing it. We would very welcome any of them. So I'll let you start, Pascal. And just before Pascal start the presentation about aggregation in Quickwit and Tantivy, Maxime, can you tell us who you are and what you're doing here?
Yeah, so my name is Maxim, and I'm pretty much a ninja marketer here at Quickwit, and it's a great journey for the Quickwit, and I'm really excited to be here. And we are just sharing love with you people, and every project that we do, it is my responsibility to share it with you to help you with your developer stuffs. So that is why we are all here, bringing love and. Pretty much, if you have any feedback, if you have any questions, let us know in the chat and we will respond during the event. We'll make pauses and we will respond to your questions. And I wish you great watching of the event.
Good luck, Pascal. It's your turn.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, my name is Pascal Seitz. I'm working mainly at Tantivy, which is the search engine used by Quickwit. And I've been developing the aggregations, which I will show now. So I'll just show the docs of Tantivy here. Is it showing? Yeah. So the Quickwit uses Tantivy underneath, which is a search engine. And in Tantivy, we implemented the aggregation. And so this is showing the Tantivy documentation. This is currently not yet completely released. So the current release of Tantivy has the range aggregation and metrics, average metrics, and statistics, but not yet the histogram, which is here on the main branch, which I'm showing the docs of, but it will be released also soon. So aggregations let you answer questions. For example, what is the average price of all sold articles, which is, for example, here a metric documentation, and it also lets you, for example, answer something like how many errors of datascode 500 do we have per day, which is a mix of a bucket metric. So we group here per day buckets, and inside those buckets we count basically, or we could do a search for status code 500 and then have a bucket for each day and do a count on it. Yeah, so generally there are two types of categories of aggregations. So the whole aggregations are designed after Elasticsearch metrics, and they also have a compatible API with Elastic on the JSON level. So all the requests, if they are serialized to JSON, serialized to Elasticsearch compatible API, and the results, if you are serialized to the also compatible API to Elasticsearch. So yeah, so we have two types of aggregations on the bucket level. The histogram, which lets you chunk your data in fixed intervals, like this, where you can set an interval and then you get like even-sized buckets for the interval. Or the other bucket would be a range, where you can define custom ranges for your buckets. And these buckets are then returned as results. They are like one-to-one copies, basically, of the Elasticsearch aggregations, and should behave also the same. One specialty of buckets is that they can have sub-aggregations. For example, like this. So every bucket, inside a bucket, we could, for example, nest another aggregation where we can put like another bucket inside, or we can have a metric aggregation inside. So, for example, for each bucket, we could then compute an average. So we would define our buckets here on the ranges, and then for every bucket, we could compute the average here. Yeah. So this is the implementation in Elasticsearch, and I'll show him how it is done or how it is integrated in Quickwit now. So one limitation we have currently is that if you want to use an aggregation, you need to create a fast field for it, and only U64, F64, and I64 are supported for now. So let me share the terminal. So at first, we would create an index. So what I have on my machine is the HDFS dataset. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. So here we would use the Quickwit tool and create an index, an HDFS index. So let me just show shortly what the HDFS is. It's the Hadoop file, system logs, and this is how the data looks like. So here we have, like, this is one data entry. These are all data entries. We have a timestamp, we have a severity text, and then we have body. So pretty simple. And what interesting could be here with the aggregation is to have a histogram on the timestamp. And yeah, and maybe something where we check something with the severity text. Interesting could be probably something interesting could be to know a histogram on all the errors that you maybe see on which days did we have a lot of errors in severity text or info. So this is this was the data, and what we would create here is next the config for that index. This is what a config looks like for that dataset. So we give it an index ID, HDFS, and then we define our fields. For the aggregation, the interesting part would be a timestamp, because we do the histogram on it. And we set it the type to I64, and which is important, or otherwise it does not work. We need to set fast to true. With fast true, we create an extra fast field index on it, which basically extracts the values and puts them into a special index where we can access the data fast. And also important here would be severity text, because we may search on it. One thing that is still in development would be terms aggregation, which I'm working currently. So in the near future, probably in the next release of Quickwit, you can then also do an aggregation on severity text, where you can group info error logs, for example, in this use case. And the rest, it's not really important in that case. Body, so we, just indexing more data, which is in this use case not used. So next we would create a new index with this command. So the config will be referenced here, and after that we would ingest the data. So here I have just piped the HDFS log into a Quickwit index and defining the index. The HDFS, it's 16 gigabyte or 14 gigabyte. That's a 14 gigabyte dataset, which is indexed. And next we would run. We would start the with Quickwit run. We start the web server, and the Quickwit run starts the indexer and the web server. So this is currently the Quickwit version compiled from the main branch. It's basically not. It behaves a little bit different in the last released version, so just that you know. And with this command, we start the Quickwit cluster, and now we have an HTTP server listening, where we can now fire a request set. So this would be an example request. You can see we are, for example, in this case, we're searching for info, and max hits is just a number of returned results. And then we have our aggregations, which is defining histogram on the timestamp field. We set an interval of 86,400, which is basically 1 day. So we have like 1 day per bucket, and doesn't really make sense, but just to show, we have a sub-aggregation. So in each bucket, we have statistics on the timestamp field, and yeah, that's it, basically. So I just executed the request now. So find this JSON against the web server, and this is the result. As you can see, we have these buckets here now, where we get a count, basically, which is now should be like the count for each day, basically. And inside of this bucket, we have our sub-aggregation, this timestamp stats, where we get now additional stats. I mean, it's not completely senseless. Max and min could be meaningful in this case. So max and min should, of course, always be within the border of these buckets. Sum doesn't really make any sense on the timestamp. So we have these counts on the results on these buckets, and it is really fast. So this is it took 0.35 seconds, and we have, I think, 15 million buckets, I think. Not buckets, results, a result count. So this would be, for example, the histogram. We could also have the range. So the number of results is 40,000. So it's really fast. But there's one caveat here which I should mention. Usually you store probably your indices on S3. Here they are on the local file system. So usually when you do a request, we fetch, or at least in the first request, we fetch the fast fields from S3. And so the initial request until the fast fields are in cache would take probably around 1 second. And afterwards they should be similar fast. Yeah. So this is an aggregation over 40 million items. And this is the range aggregation here. So range aggregation, you can have define custom ranges. So the histogram, you just define your interval and your data range gets cut into these intervals. With the range aggregation, you can set custom ranges where you set from to for all your ranges, and have your aggregation then in these buckets. So here, basically, we define 3 buckets, and all those 40 million documents which have info, inserity, text are put into those buckets, and then we have to count, basically. So the ranges I chosen are arbitrary here. Just put any numbers in there. So we see here that we have most documents in the first bucket, and some in the middle bucket, and a few in the last bucket. And here we just make an average in the times of the time in these buckets. So this would be the range with a sub-aggregation in it. I think that would be it. So far, any questions? Yeah, there's a question. Sorry, I didn't see that. So the question is, how deep can you nest buckets? Is it 2 levels, or can you get deeper? You can go infinite, basically. Usually it doesn't make sense to go infinite. But yeah, you can go infinite, basically, as long as your machine makes it. Probably meaningful would probably 1-2 levels. Yeah. So the question, the plan for string aggregation, it's currently in development. It will come. It will release. We will release it with the next Quickwit release. End of this month. Is it planned? Did I change my NVIM color theme to look cool with the Quickwit logo. Yeah, of course. No, it's just a coincidence. Okay, there's a question. I'm interested in fixed bucket count aggregation. For example, aggregate this price facet in 10 buckets. Or auto nesting in case of timestamps, which is, if I remember correctly, a pain with time zones. Yeah. Okay, so fixed bucket count. It's, I mean, you have a fixed bucket count if you have your fixed ranges, but I guess I'm not sure if you meant that. So you can set your ranges to create 10 buckets for predefined 10 buckets. What's not possible is a fixed bucket count where with dynamic ranges. At least currently, it's not yet implemented. Yeah, so far we did not implement all of the Elasticsearch aggregations, but if there's interest, we can implement other aggregations. Yeah, so we didn't do anything with time zones yet. Okay, so yeah, so that you have a level with months, for example. Yeah, this we don't have it. The closest you can get to is the probably custom ranges, where you know which range reflects which months, and then you just say, okay, you give these ranges as parameters. Yeah, you could do that. Will work, I think, but will be really weird API, especially if you want to have like months, and inside this months you want it per day. You can define your ranges on the first level for your months, and then inside probably you can like for all, or maybe a histogram inside, it would be better, because the histogram only returns values between the first and the second value, right? And if you have a bucket, you automatically, if you create a histogram inside your bucket, you automatically get the right boundaries by your parent bucket, basically. So the histogram does, because the histogram only goes from the first to the last value, basically. But I mean, it's possible, I think, to build something with it. But I guess if we implement similar to Elasticsearch, if you don't know, you're right. Yeah, so it's probably better if we implement date histogram, I think, from Elasticsearch, which would solve some of these issues, which is probably which takes the burden from the user a little bit, right? So I mean, it's a problem when you don't know. It's a problem when you don't know the ranges in advance. I mean, you know your ranges probably for your months, right? So you know these ranges, and inside a bucket you could do a histogram aggregation. Thanks. So far, I don't see any further questions.
Okay, I think so well done, Pascal. Thank you very much. I think we can end the event now if there is no more questions. And thanks for everyone to follow us, and don't hesitate to to follow us on YouTube or continue the discussion on Discord.
Yes, you can always put your questions into Discord, and we'll answer you there at any time. We just love to do so.
Thanks.
It's passion night and morning.
Yep. Thanks.
Thank
Bye
you
bye.
for attending it.
Bye bye.